Hello! Welcome back to another unqualified deep dive. Because if Carrie can write about her friends and sex life with zero qualifications, so can I. Today, in honor of And Just Like That, dragging its Manolo heels back into our lives, I thought it was time to talk about the original show that created a generation of deeply delusional city girls. Sex and the City. By the way, I'm not a therapist or a fashion historian, but I am someone who has watched the show many times and has a lot to say about overpriced shoes, women who think that their friend groups will solve all of their problems, and emotionally unavailable men. Without further ado, let's talk about the four most emotionally unstable girls to ever run around Manhattan in kitten heels. Let's start off really strong with the core four, and why none of them would be, in my opinion, your real friend. I think I'm gonna start with Carrie. So we have her, so we're done with her. Not that I hate her. No. She's the main character, and also probably the worst person that you could ever meet. Yeah. In later seasons, she's so much worse though. In the first seasons, a diva. She called herself a professional writer when she's literally typing one sentence per day in a $3,000 studio apartment. Iconic, I would say. Yeah. And she is insufferable, with always wondering and something letting her to wonder. Of course I had to say that, right? Carrie is the friend who makes everything about her. Your dog died? She's somehow related to Mr. Big ghosting her in the Hamptons. If she existed in 2024, she'd be an aesthetic, fashion, lifestyle girl who does get ready with me's while rambling about Mr. Big. Deep down, she's terrified of being alone, but also can't commit to stability. Her crimes? Smoking indoors in every emotional scene, leaving Aiden high and dry, repeatedly. That unforgettable, horrific moment where she screamed at Charlotte for not offering her to lend her money. She's also kind of an unreliable narrator, if you really think about it. The whole show is told through her lens and her perspective, in a way. Her voiceovers, her column, her breakdowns. She frames her friend's life through her perspective, which is kind of hilarious and borderline narcissistic, but we all know that's what happens with TV shows and films. But it also makes for a very specific kind of storytelling. Personal, vulnerable, and deeply biased. It's what makes the show feel like a diary, and that's part of its power and likability, I think. Now, let's move on to the real star of the show, Miss Samantha Jones. She is the absolute legend. PR queen, sex obsessed. But let's be real, she sometimes treats people like press releases, hot for a minute and then ghosted when the buzz dies down. Samantha lives in a fairy fantasy where emotions are optional. She's empowering, but sometimes emotionally vacant. Still, she is the only one who never lied to herself about who she really was. And that we appreciate, for sure. We love her, and we miss her. And my hot take, Samantha would have thrived in the influencer and social media era because her brand partnerships would have been unhinged. Samantha's real genius is how she turns shame into power. She refused to be boxed in and molded in by age, men, judgment. She's also the most loyal friend of them all, even when her lifestyle differs from others. Samantha is that rare character who never needs to change to grow. Now, onto the people's princess, Charlotte. Living proof that internalized misogyny looks great in Prose and Chanel. She wants the 1950s fantasy in a 2000s world, and it shows. It shows. Her love language is pretending that everything is fine while spiraling in a perfectly curated Ralph Lauren bedroom. But hey, she evolves. She does. She goes through fertility struggles, divorce, religious conversion. She grows up. She's just a drama queen, you know? Yeah. Charlotte is a friend who always makes you feel judged, though. She does that. But she also brings the best wine to girls' night. She's conservative, traditional, wants the fairy tale, but she's also wildly delusional. The duality. And last but not least, Miranda. Honestly, I think that Miranda is the only one who had her shit somewhat together. She's the most realistic, most intelligent, I think, and the least chaotic until, and just like that, decided to completely assassinate her character, which I absolutely hate because I loved her before. But in the OG series, a woman in STEM, a working mother, a realist, and she also had the best one-liners. And her jokes were also great. She's cynical, but real, brutally honest, but grounded. And also the actual feminist. And also Miranda's entire arc about fighting the system from within. She doesn't buy into romantic fantasies or fairy tales like the others, except Samantha. And yet she still wants love. She's battling burnout and a chronic inability to ask for help. The verdict? Would I be friends with any of them in real life? I don't know. Maybe. But depends. They seem good on paper, but I don't know if in reality, if actually. Now the men. The gaslight gatekeep girl boss of Sex and the City. Let's start off with with the one and only Mr. Big. Who would I be if I didn't start off with Mr. Big? Seriously. Toxic with a capital T. He's emotionally unavailable, hot and cold. Carrie's obsession with him is basically a case study in anxious attachment. But both of them probably have some attachment issues. He probably has avoidant attachment, but I cannot say. He's charming and mysterious, but mostly a grown man who probably needs therapy. He's every I'm not ready for a relationship guy who mysteriously is ready once you move on, you know? And my hot take, Big is not a romantic and never was. He never was a romantic. He's just tall, rich, and emotionally distant. And also very hot. Yeah, now onto Aiden. He was the golden retriever of men in Sex and the City. Sweet, he was loyal, he was emotionally available, and Carrie still manages to cheat on him with Big twice. Aiden was a nice guy who gets friend-zoned by the girl he cannot fix. Ouch. We love Aiden, but also, I don't know. He deserved better, but he also tried to change Carrie and push her when she wasn't ready. So, I don't know, he had his own flaws too. You don't get bonus points for being nice if you don't actually see and understand your partner. Next one is Steve. Miranda's on and off again bartender babe. Steve is cute, goofy, soft, shows emotion and compassion, sometimes cringe. He's not traditionally masculine, and that freaks Miranda out, I think. Steve represents the guy who is emotionally present, but a little too comfortable. He doesn't challenge Miranda intellectually, but he gives her safety and affection. But Steve was also the most emotionally mature man in the show, in my opinion. Now, well, I don't know. Maybe Smith Jared was also. I don't know. Steve and Miranda were also more real than any other couple on the show, I think. Not perfect, but they were deeply human. Now onto the king of my heart, Harry. We love Harry. Charlotte's second husband, and arguably the best Sex and the City male character. Like, definitely. He's kind, he's supportive, he's funny, he's loyal. He loves Charlotte for who she really is. After years of her chasing the perfect guy, he just accepts her. A king. And we all love him for that. He's incredible. He is the unexpected prince. He's not conventionally attractive, but he's emotionally mature, unpretentious, and doesn't play games, which is not like common in that series. If Carrie had dated a guy like Harry instead of chasing Big, we would have had a completely different show and maybe a happier one. I wanted to mention Trey, Charlotte's first husband. Emotionally repressed, had severe mommy issues. Now, he wasn't like horrible, but he had no emotional depth. We needed him for the storyline, but we didn't really get any from him. He represents the illusion of perfection. Handsome, wealthy doctor with a dream apartment and a nightmare emotional landscape. He's the blueprint for performative masculinity. Yeah, I said it. Yeah. Now, let's move further from the characters and into an even more interesting territory. The 3 Fs. Fashion, feminism, M4 pass. When couture meets chaos, Sex and the City isn't just a show, it's a fashion thesis, okay? And for many people, it was a fashion inspiration and awakening. Patricia Field's styling changed television. Full stop. From Carrie's iconic tutu in the opening credits, which by the way cost $5 from a bin, to Samantha's power suit, Charlotte's preppy pearls, and Miranda's sometimes unfortunate maternal outfits. Sex and the City dressed a generation of women. Carrie was the blueprint for high and low fashion before Instagram even existed. Manolo Blahniks were catapulted into high fashion status, and vintage Dior saddlebags became aspirational. And suddenly everyone wanted to wear a newspaper dress just like Carrie. Fashion wasn't just aesthetic, it was identity. It still is for many people, and that's great. From Charlotte's clean and put together Ralph Lauren outfits that manifested her need for tradition, Miranda's put together office looks that mirrored her often pragmatic view, to Samantha and her style that screamed dominance and confidence. But yet, some aged like milk. For example, Carrie's pink, purple, green, orange, blue, crazy yoga mom Capri's look, if you know what I mean. That was... no. But the core idea that fashion is a form of self-expression remains undefeated. In a world where men came and went, stilettos and statement pieces were the constants, and they could always count on them. Now a complicated but hot relationship, and no, it's not Carrie and Vic. We won't discuss that any further. Well, maybe we will. We will, but later. It's feminism and Sex and the City. Was Sex and the City really feminist? Yes. No. Sometimes kind of. Look, feminism isn't a monolith, and Sex and the City was messy, contradictory, and often problematic, like deeply, but also in its own chaotic way, sort of empowering. These four women talking about careers, heartbreak, sex, and everything else on TV in the late 90s. Revolutionary. They made female pleasure, emotional complexity, and non-married life not only visible but also celebrated in its own way. But also, they were four, mostly rich, straight, actually, not exactly straight, okay? If we ignore Miranda in And Just Like That and Samantha's lesbian face, they were mostly straight. White women, mostly living in a fantasy version of New York where every brunch was boozy and rent was apparently not a concern. Not super inclusive, not always realistic. Miranda was often the most grounded one and the most grounded voice, and a low-key radical voice too. But even she bought into the outdated ideas about having it all. Still, we can't deny the cultural shift that Sex and the City cracked the door open for shows like Girls, Broad City, Insecure, even Gossip Girl in a way, and Fleabag too. Imperfect feminism is still feminism, and we stand a messy legacy. Sex positivity and the occasional side-eye. This show brought open conversations about cheating, open relationships into mainstream media like it was nothing. That alone earns its street credit. But sometimes it dips into slut-shamey or judgmental territory. Remember when they all clutched their pearls about Samantha dating a guy who was bi? Or Carrie's judgy vibes about Miranda being a single mom? Yeah, no, not great and not supportive. But for every moment that made you cringe, there was one that was deeply liberating. Samantha fighting breast cancer while maintaining her sex life? Great, iconic. Miranda choosing work and motherhood over romance? Incredible. Carrie admitting she sometimes just wanted to be selfish? Relatable. And something that's been pretty popular lately that I want to talk about. Sex and the City could actually be a horror series if you watch it from Mr. Big's perspective. Okay, let's review the evidence, shall we? Exhibit A. She stalked Natasha. Like completely, like full-on stalker. Like full-on Joe Goldberg. Yeah, Natasha fell down her stairs and got her lips split open trying to escape Carrie, who tried to apologize for sleeping with her husband during their relationship. Oh, that was Gone Girl in Manolos. Exhibit B. Big tells Carrie he's moving to Paris, so she says, "I'm happy for you," and then proceeds to lose her mind. going full on feral. Great. Exhibit C. Big confesses his feelings too late. Carrie screams at him in the street. And I quote, "You do this every time. Every time. What? Do you have some kind of radar? Carrie might be happy. It's my time to swoop in and shit all over it." He just stands confused. And I get it. Exhibit D. The thing with the pizza. The get it while it's hot moment. I fear this moment. I fear being cringe like this. I mean, I don't blame him for wanting to move to Napa without telling her. I'm sorry, but this is like... And last but not least, Exhibit E, the French fry. When she came into his apartment, came to this door in the beret and said, "Voila la French fry," or something like that. It sends shivers down my spine. She's the scariest, in the pun intended. So, the rewatch and just like that. Rewatching Sex and the City. Cringe? Problematic? Fun? All? Yeah. Some parts are cute and comforting, and other parts want to crawl into a hole because of its deep second-hand embarrassment. Yes, Carrie was a narcissist. Yes, the diversity was non-existent. But also, the writing slaps, the dialogue is snappy, the jokes are absolutely unforgettable, and the emotional arcs are still tough. It's a time capsule of millennial womanhood in its designer-heeled prime. And let's be real, no show since has matched Sex and the City's ability to pair emotional devastation with killing outfits. And Just Like That, the revival. About And Just Like That, this show is the equivalent of your aunt trying TikTok for the first time. We appreciate the effort, somehow, but we're also like, it's weird, it's cringe, and it's awkward. But also fascinating in a way. You know, Charlotte's still doing Charlotte things. Miranda went queer and chaotic, and the writers did her so dirty. I hate them for it. She was so cool and intelligent before in the first few seasons. She was down to earth at least, and now she's crazy. And Carrie is grieving and podcasting. Samantha is not there, so we miss her. We miss her deeply. Middle-aged girls still trying to brunch, but now they have teenagers and podcasts about menopause. Is it good? Not really. Will I still watch it? Unfortunately, I will, yes. My final thoughts now. Carrie Bradshaw should have ended up single or with her actual real soulmate, herself. Samantha Jones is the feminist icon we deserved and needed and deeply missed. Big was a walking red flag in his expensive suits. But I would choose him too. I would choose him. Aiden was hot, but sometimes boring. And no, you can't fix him just because he does woodwork. Miranda Hobbs is the only one who didn't need the topic of men in every single conversation she had. Charlotte is that friend you secretly hate and know that she just judges you to your core, but also you deeply need and value her. And fashion is the fifth main character. The sixth are Cosmos. Sex and the City was never truly perfect, but it was honest, brave, funny, and emotionally messy, in a way that still resonates with us to this day. Whether you're watching for the clothes, the chaos, to see Carrie do bad decisions to make you feel better about yourself, or just to feel something, Sex and the City is still it. If you made it this far, congratulations. This was a long ride. You've officially survived my rambling on emotionally unavailable men, couture, and the eternal mystery that is Carrie Bradshaw's rent situation. Except that one mention. Whether you're a Charlotte in the streets and a Samantha in the sheets, yeah, so funny, whatever. Or a Miranda just trying to pay her taxes and not lose her mind, we still come back to it. And just like that, we are at the end. Thank you for listening, thank you for watching. If you want to see more, subscribe to my YouTube channel or check out my podcast, Whatever Happens, on Spotify. I post there some cool stuff too. You can check out my Instagram as well, under the same name that my YouTube is. And yeah, that's all from me today. I'll see you soon, I suppose. I hope. Bye!